Can you tell us some of your accomplishments?
Well, just to name a few, man, I think I've been blessed enough to be in a position where the accolades and accomplishments I've ever, accomplished or gotten was because of my dedication to just my craft, my strong foundation in my religion, with my parents who also were always been there for me. I've been to 3 Super Bowls, 2 of them with the Seattle Seahawks, one of them with the Atlanta Falcons. I only won one. Seattle Seahawks beat the Denver Broncos in 2014. Was the only victory, the Super Bowl victory. But went back again to the Super Bowl again and played with the Seahawks. And we didn't give the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1-yard line, so that was tough. And then my third Super Bowl, we played against the New England Patriots. And, that big debacle of the Atlanta Falcons versus New England Patriots, 28-3 comeback. Tom Brady, wins his 6th Super Bowl ring. That's the storyline. But I've been to 3 Super Bowls. I have my degree in criminology. I wanted to be an FBI agent when I was younger. One of the greatest accomplishments I can say is I was able to provide for my family and my little sister, who was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer at the age of 22. So with my, job as an NFL football player, I was able to provide for her treatment, as well, for her to go to college and go to school and become a 3rd-grade teacher, which she has now been for the last 6 years. So those are just the top things that come to mind. I was all-state quarterback in the state of Florida, in my area in the Big Bend. I was also in the same year Mr. Basketball. I've had a good athletic career, but, most of the things I can really brag about are just the things I was able to do for my family.
Well, you mentioned your area.
Yeah.
What was life like growing up in Tallahassee?
Life in Tallahassee, man, it was interesting. I grew up in a dorm room on Florida State's football campus. So until I was 6 years old, that's actually where I lived. And my dad worked at Florida State and my mom was a nurse at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. So I grew up in that dorm room watching, across the street from Doak Campbell Stadium, which is where the Florida State football team plays. So I watched Derrick Brooks and Charlie Ward and Chris Winkie and Peter Ward and all those great guys, kind of run throughout that stadium. And I always told myself I'm going to be just like them one day. Funny thing is, from that dorm room, I moved out to the suburbs when my parents made enough money to afford a home. But I grew up on the predominantly white side of town in Tallahassee. But I also went to church and I played Saturday morning basketball and football, on the south side. So for me, I didn't really grow up around kids and have that neighborhood, atmosphere, just because of how I grew up from the dorm room to the north side of town. The north side of town, I went to a predominantly white school. But on the weekends, I would be, on the south side, going to church and playing sports with more people that look like me. So for me, growing up was very, difficult as far as trying to be accepted. So on one side of town, I'm, a young black man trying to figure it out Monday through Friday and not really being accepted. But on the other side of town, I'm not from your neighborhood. So who's this light-skinned kid coming in and trying to make a name for himself and who does he think he is? So that was like the early premises of just me becoming a fighter, being very competitive and always feeling like I had to prove myself.
So how did that shape you into accomplishing your accomplishments?
Man, it molded me a lot, man. Just my upbringing as far as, having to feel like I have to fight on both sides of the train tracks, if you will. And then at the same time, my dreams and goals were always to be a Florida State football player. And growing up in high school, I was always told I was too short or not good enough or not fast enough by Florida State, so that was another, instance and moment in my life where my competitive nature and my dreams and goals and who I believe myself to be was still going to go against what the norm was. So, it's made me a competitor even to this day. I mean, about 2 days ago, I got into it with some guys at the basketball gym, at LA Fitness. They do it for fun and cardio, and I'm doing it for cardio fun, but I'm also going to win. So my competitive nature is still there. I still want to, handle my business the way I think I should handle it. And at the end of the day, I always still feel like I got something to prove.
Well, what are some of the mental health challenges that you face as an athlete?
Some of the mental health challenges I face as an athlete, honestly, just, becoming the breadwinner at such a young age. I turned 23, 24 years old, and now I'm the head of the household. Now I got friends that, I looked up to now calling me big dog. Like those things there kind of put me in a weird space and position, especially when, I'm dealing with those things from what I want to accomplish for myself, which is I want to be an NFL football player. And at the time, I wanted it to be everything it consisted of. So I wanted the cars, the money, jewelry, the clothes, the notoriety, the Instagram followers. But, when I go back home, my little sister still needs, treatment, for cancer. And my grandmother, was diagnosed with cancer, and unfortunately she passed away. But I'm having to take care of copay for her. And copay, for those that don't know, is I'm just paying $40 to $100 just so the doctor can, tell her what's wrong with her, not to fix her. So there was a lot of things, I was dealing with, being a backup quarterback. I always told myself, like, man, like, I played for the 3 best NFL teams that you could have during an era. I was with the San Francisco 49ers, backing up Kaepernick. I was with the Seattle Seahawks, backing up Russell Wilson. I was in Atlanta, backing up Matt Ryan. So I'm even questioning myself, like, okay, well, the dream is not to make it to the NFL. The dream is to play in the NFL. So once I get there and I'm thinking that I've accomplished my dream, I'm still thinking, like, man, I want to play for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe I can start. Maybe if I go to a lesser team, I have an opportunity to kind of just fulfill my dreams. So, those mental struggles and battles I face every day, not wanting to get cut. Every single day with the Seahawks, I'm going against the Legion of Boom. So I'm having to mentally prepare myself to go against, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman every day just to prove that I deserve an opportunity in the NFL. So, never been diagnosed with anything, but from a mental standpoint, there's a lot of different things I was facing and going through, relationships that failed that I really wanted to work out. Where I am today is just in a position where if I can use my story to try to just help others, then that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And I'm proud of the things I went through because it goes to resilience, how I've overcome things. So it actually helps other people feel comfortable to say, like, oh, I didn't do this right, or I didn't do this as good as I could have, but I see somebody who continues to press forward and chase their dreams as well.
Okay. What are some of your most memorable NFL moments outside of winning the Super Bowl?
So my most memorable NFL moment outside of winning the Super Bowl was, probably my first NFL game. You got a kid that's from Tallahassee who, grew up wanting to be a Florida State football player. Then that didn't happen, but I ended up going to USF, and we beat Florida State. So that was like making your enemies your footstool right there for me. But once I got drafted, having the opportunity to step out on the football field after, my senior year of college, I broke my ankle. So I never even thought I would make it to the NFL. But I step out on the football field and I'm, in Denver, Colorado, and I see Peyton Manning on the other side of the field, as a San Francisco 49er. And then I get a chance to go out on the field and play and take my first snap. In that first series, I threw a touchdown pass, so, that whole preseason was a dream realized for me. I played very well. I didn't know if I was going to make the team or not because we had so many good guys on the team, but having that opportunity to go out there and throw a touchdown and eventually throw the game-winning touchdown was just a dream come true.
Okay, so tell us a little more about your book.
Yeah, so my book, Beyond the Redzone, basically talks about my story and journey throughout, my life. It's a testament to resilience. So the very first story that's in my book is when I talk about my parents telling me I'm not big enough to have a fire truck. I mean, have a skateboard, excuse me. And I took my little toy fire truck and I put it on top of the hill and I stood on top of it. And I acted like it was a skateboard. And then I went down the hill a couple of times, successful. And eventually I fell on my face and scraped up my whole body. And my parents eventually got me a skateboard because they knew I wasn't going to listen. I was going to do what it is that I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And that's one of the first stories that talks about just resilience. And when someone tells you can't do something, find a way. But throughout the whole book, I talk about, all the successes. So people look at me and they think about the Super Bowls and meeting President Obama and the White House and all those things, but they don't know how much it cost me. They don't know what I went through. Being told I can't play the position or I don't fit the mold because I'm not 6'5". I'm still dealing with the African-American quarterback stigma. breaking my ankle my senior year of college, so I never would think I would make it to the NFL. My little sister being diagnosed with cancer, my grandmother dying of cancer, being held at gunpoint here in Tampa Bay, Florida. Just all those things happen. But so when I tell people they don't know how much it cost me, my story really is about resilience. I've had opportunities where I wanted to figure out who I was as a person. So one of the best stories that I can tell you is that after my third Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons, I wanted to see if I could do life the same way I did football. So as much sleds that I pushed and sprints that I ran and playbooks that I studied, surgeries that I done had, I walked to a job. I walked 5 miles in Atlanta, Georgia, to a job. I had on a USF t-shirt and some black shorts, and I put it in my backpack. And I put it on. I put my suit in my backpack. But when I walked to the job, I actually went to the bathroom. I took my USF t-shirt off and went and washed off so they wouldn't think I was sweating. I put my suit on, and then I went up to the top floor. And it was a marketing job, I remember. So you had to sell yourself. You couldn't sell yourself, then they didn't think you could sell anything else. So I went up there and I sold myself. They gave me the job on a Friday evening. So I put my suit back in my backpack and I walked back to my house. And Monday morning, they called me at 9 a.m. and I didn't show up. And they emailed me, they called me, and I never responded. Shout out to that company if they're still out there, but looking for me. But, I just really wanted to test myself mentally. I wanted to see what kind of man I could be outside of the game of football. So that's one of the stories that's in there as well. But like I said, resilience is what my story consists of. I've had teammates, who have unfortunately committed suicide on every level, college, high school, and NFL. But I want to be the voice for them to say, and anyone else that may hear my story that, look, man, it's not that bad. You are not by yourself. You also have people that love and care about you. So that's basically the message of my book, Beyond the Red Zone.